Hey guys, it's me, Althazar, and welcome to another episode of Achieving Perfection. This is going to be for Hour of Devastation Bolas. So I have a few decks, I'm going to show them off, and if you want to just copy paste them, go ahead. And if you want to actually see the info about the decks and the event and all that kind of stuff, stick around. So here is my deck for beginners. Here is my deck for intermediate players, so people with slightly larger collections. Here is my deck for people with big collections. There are two actually, so decks, plural. This is one. And this is two. All right, let's get into the event. Click out, click in. So for the Hour of Devastation, you're going to have to use one of three featured Planeswalkers. This time around, it's Bolas, God-Pharaoh. And Bolas, God-Pharaoh's objectives are pretty great, given what Bolas himself does. So if we move down just a little bit, you need to win the fight, you need to kill 3 or more enemy creatures during a fight, and you need to lose 3 or more creatures during a fight. So because Bolas is first kills creatures and his third brings creatures back from your own graveyard, it's pretty great for killing and losing creatures as objectives go. So you really want to build your decks around killing creatures and then losing your own. So fortunately for us, killing creatures and losing creatures, you can use a kill spell and you can kill your own creature and that counts toward losing creatures, and you can kill an opponent's creature and that counts as killing it. So let's go to that beginner deck. So I know that there are 2 mythics, but both of these mythics are event rewards, and both of them have abilities when something you control dies. So this one, when a creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to your opponent's planeswalker and their first creature, and then you draw a card. So that card draw is really good because it just gets you card advantage, and this is amazing for that. Also, if the creature was red or black, repeat the process. All your creatures in here should be black, so it's going to definitely repeat that process. The second one is Savra, and Savra, because they're all black again, right? So whenever a black creature you control is destroyed or loses reinforcement, your opponent's first creature loses a reinforcement. If it can't, it's destroyed. So between Savra and Lysolda, when you lose a black creature, you should be drawing 2 cards and killing an opponent's creature. So that's fantastic. Now for the third creature, we're going to go with Fleshbag Marauder. If you have it, it's an Origins uncommon, so I tried to make the beginners and the intermediate decks more Origins or uncommon stacked. And so with this one, when it enters the battlefield, you destroy one of your creatures and one of your opponent's creatures. So it completes a third of the objective for you for both objectives. So this is a great card for this particular node. Then from there, I went ahead and threw in the Death Sprout Rupture Spire combo. If you have this, use it. It's incredible, amazing, and great. It's going to give you a lot more flexibility with your abilities, so you want that. Because there's a support node in this event, you definitely want to make sure that you have support removal. So do not accidentally go into this event without having good support removal. So Demolish is a great choice. I would definitely use it. As kill spells go, apart from Death Sprout, I really like Murder because Murder has flash, and so this is going to save you from a lot of the really bad things that exist in Legacy. And because so many of the big Legacy bombs have gone for sale for money for pretty cheap of late, you definitely want to make sure that you have ways of dealing with them, especially if you don't have them yourself. So a card like Murder is great. It's going to get rid of an Olivia before she hits you, and that's something that you definitely want. And then you're probably going to be taking hits, so if you've got Consecrate, ignore that first side for the large part, but this Consume ability is going to destroy your opponent's first creature with the greatest power, and then you're going to gain life equal to that creature's power. So it's going to destroy their biggest creature, and you're going to gain life. So this is going to keep you in the game a little bit longer. Now, card draw is really important, so Sunset Pyramid is a great card, but if you have other forms of card draw, there are definitely better choices. And to round out this deck, another event reward, Leyline of Singularity. So this one might not be an obvious choice, but there are a few reasons for this. So one, in this node, you're probably going to see a lot of zombie decks, and a lot of the zombie decks produce a ton of tokens. And so you may not have a way of dealing with that. And so this is great for that. Also, zombies buff up pretty quickly, so they'll get a lot of reinforcements and buffs, and if you overflow this thing, you're going to remove all the buffs from your first opposing buffed creature. So you can use this to hopefully get rid of all the opponent's buffs. So this card is great as a defensive option, but it's not entirely necessary, but I think it's actually a really good card for this node. So I'd go with something like this as a beginner. Now, let's say that you have a few more cards at your disposal. I know that a lot of my previous decks have been like beginner and then like you have everything. So I wanted to make something more in the middle. Sorry for that noise. A door closed outside in the hall. So for this one, I threw in a few more mythics. You'll see that the mythics are all from Origins though. So once again, I'm trying to make it as easy to get as possible. But here, you're looking at two creatures that both have nifty effects when they die. So Despoiler of Souls, when this is destroyed, if you have some mana in your hand, it's going to come right back. So destroying this thing yourself just to complete your objective is fine, easy, and great. And then Hanger Backwalker, when it dies, it produces Thopter tokens. So if you need to kill this thing off just to lose more creatures, then go for it. Now, we have one of our two best kill spells for this node here from Origins, and it's Turn to Frog. You can use this to destroy your opponent's creatures or your own and get a token. So that token then can be destroyed also. So this, you can play this and then ideally get 2 kills off of being able to play 1 card. And that's great for card advantage and just trying to complete the objectives quickly. If you have Turn to Frog, it's a great option. There's really only one better option than this, and it's Imprisoned in the Moon, but we'll be going over that one later. Now, you'll see that I kept the Death Sprout Rupture Spire combo in here. If you've got it, use it. It's basically if you don't have Omniscience or Blue Sun Zenith or Behold the Beyond or something like that, use this combo. It's going to be your best bet. Talent of the Telepath is nice for just getting the card you want when you want it and giving it some mana, so it's pretty useful. Days Undoing is going to draw you more cards. Thopter Spy Network is going to synergize really nicely with the Hanger Backwalker. It's going to give you tokens every turn, and those tokens are going to draw you more cards. And then finally, Murder, Kills, and Lich's Mastery is going to keep you in the game. So this isn't an objective where you need to not take damage. So if the Lich's Mastery is destroyed, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but at the very least, this is going to keep you around if your opponent does some silly combo thing or plays some beat stick that you just can't deal with. And fortunately for us, Lich's Mastery, which makes you discard a card, is going to be counteracted by the Thopter Spy Network drawing you a card. So you don't really have to worry about that card loss as much. So this here would be a perfectly viable deck to go with. And then if you have a bigger collection, I'd really go one of 2 routes. So one of those routes is to go with the Rakdos the Defiler Squee combo that I talked about for an event a few weeks ago. And so Squee is going to come back to the battlefield every time it dies, and Rakdos, whenever it attacks, is going to kill Squee. So in 3 turns of Rakdos attacking, you're going to complete the You Lose Creatures objective. And whenever Rakdos deals damage to your opponent, you destroy all of their non-demon creatures. Likely your opponent is not going to be playing demons, maybe they're playing zombies. I mean, maybe they go demons, right? But this is going to likely be able to complete both objectives for you, which is fantastic. It's good to throw in another demon. I like Herald of Anguish because it forces the opponent to discard a card every turn, so it just sort of caps them out at the number of cards in their hand in some ways. And so it's going to make it so that once you've achieved your objectives, when you get this guy down, you can just lock your opponent down and not have to worry about them coming back and doing crazy things. So to the same token, that's why Infinite Obliteration is in here. So once you've completed your objective, go ahead and use this. You do want to be careful, though, if you're running this deck. Don't go Infinite Obliteration into Herald of Anguish at the very beginning of the match, get your opponent down to 0 cards, and then never let them draw another card. Because if you do that, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're going to have a hard time completing your objectives. Imprisoned in the Moon is kind of like Turn to Frog on steroids because it costs 1/3 the mana, and the token is a 0/1, so it's not going to be hitting you. I know that the token can produce mana for your opponent, but it's really not a big deal. It's an amazing card. If you have it, use it. Dowsing Dagger. This is going to give your opponent a creature. It's going to force a creature onto the battlefield for your opponent for you to destroy. It does not have flying, so Rakdos is going to swing through it and destroy it. And if you have Imprison in the Moon, you basically get to kill 2 creatures off of 1 casting of Dowsing Dagger. If you have 2 Imprisoned in the Moons, you've automatically completed that objective, and you're great. River's Rebuke is going to be our way of getting rid of supports in this deck, along with hexproof things, because there are hexproof shenanigans in Legacy. Behold the Beyond over Blue Sun Zenith, because you'll see that I'm running Omniscience in the deck, and Blue Sun requires stored mana. Behold does not. Behold has a casting prompt. Blue Sun does not. So with Omniscience, you want cards that have casting prompts so that you can choose not to cast them. Killer Instinct is in here just so that we can get to Squee and Rakdos quicker. And then that really just rounds out this deck. So just look for a core like Squee, Rakdos, and that's just going to be an excellent core to build around if you have them. Now, the final option that I'm going to show off is a zombie deck. Zombies are very viable for this, and so you can go with the Scab Goliath, Relentless Dead, Prized Amalgam core. So Scab Goliath, when it enters the battlefield, destroy each other creature you control, and then this guy's going to get +6/+6 per destroyed creature. So with Relentless Dead, when it dies, it comes back to the battlefield. And Prized Amalgam, when it dies, or when it's in the graveyard, right? When another zombie enters the battlefield, it's returned to the battlefield. So the Scab Goliath is going to kill your Amalgam. It's going to kill your Relentless Dead. The Relentless Dead is going to come back, which triggers all of your prized Amalgams to come back also. This is great for making sure that you lose all of your creatures and they just keep coming back. This is potentially bad in that between the Goliath and the Amalgams that are going to your graveyard and coming back, you wind up getting a lot of power. So you have to make sure that you don't kill your opponent too quickly, especially as you can't then just go ahead and destroy the Relentless Dead and the prized Amalgam to stop yourself, because when you kill them, they just come back. So just be careful about that if you're running this. So Omniscience and Behold the Beyond are in the deck again, along with River's Rebuke, Dowsing Dagger, Imprisoned in the Moon, and Killer Instinct. The one change here is that I threw in Apex of Power. This is just going to give you another card draw outlet because you want to draw into all of your pieces. You could just as easily swap Apex of Power with something like Turn to Frog. And I should add that if you use Imprisoned in the Moon and Turn to Frog, you can destroy your zombies and then have that token occupy one of your creature slots and make it so that the Relentless Dead or the Prized Amalgam don't come back, just in the event that you accelerate too quickly. But in large part, if you run this, you're going to be killing your opponent's creatures, you're going to be killing your own, and you're going to do great. So with that, going zombies is great. Going with the Rakdos Squee combo is great. And if you don't have those, honestly, you're going to be fine with using stuff that comes back when it dies, like Despoiler of Souls or Hangerback Walker, or even just if you don't have that big collection, going Fleshbag Marauder with Lysolda and Savra are going to do wonders for you. And even if you don't have the Marauder, Lysolda and Savra, hopefully you have from the event, and so you can just throw in some other black creature and you'll do fine. So I really like just as another option, so just in case, edit. So some other really cool options here are, there's this little rat that's really nice. Boop, 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 boop. I should have gone Mana Ascending. Silly me. So Ruin Rat is really nice because it's got Death Touch and Defender, so it's going to die and destroy a creature. So that's another one that's going to be great for achieving that objective. Reassembling Skeleton can be really nice for this because when it dies, if you've got the black gems out, it's going to come back to the battlefield, so you can just keep killing it for the objective, having it come back and have Lysolda and Savra trigger. Or finally, there's a common. We're going to go this way and that. So hopefully this helps you go perfect, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.